In this example, I need to solve the equation 1 divided by the quantity x minus 2 minus 1 over x equals 1/3. Well, what type of equation is this? Notice I have variables in the denominator, so this is a rational equation. And how do we solve those? We find the least common denominator and then we multiply every single term in the equation by the LCD to get rid of the denominators. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is find the least common denominator. And the way we do that is you go to your first denominator and write it exactly as is. So I have to have an x minus 2. Go to your next denominator. Do I have a plain old x here? No, so I'm going to have to multiply by x. Go to your third denominator. Do I have a 3 over here? No, so I'm going to have to multiply by 3. So my LCD is 3x times the quantity x minus 2. At this point, it's good to find the domain of the equation. And remember, we can't divide by 0. So we're going to have to exclude values that make denominators equal to 0. So you take your first denominator, x minus 2, set it equal to 0. Add 2 to both sides, so you're going to have to exclude x equals 2. Set your second denominator equal to 0. X equals 0, you're also going to have to exclude that. Third denominator, 3 can never equal 0, so these are the two values you're going to exclude from your domain. So when you get your answer, you will check to see if they are allowed values. Now I'm ready to multiply all 3 terms in my equation by the LCD. And to help me do that, I've written my equation and I've spread the terms out to leave me room. And so then I take my LCD of 3x times x minus 2 and I divide it by 1 to turn it into a fraction. And then I'm going to multiply it by every single term in my equation. And please don't forget, you must multiply the term on the right-hand side also by the LCD. So now I've done that, I'm ready to simplify. On my first term, the x minus 2 reduces, so I get 3x times 1, which is 3x, over 1 times 1, which is 1. So all I have is 3x, minus my second term, the x reduces, and I just get left with 3 times x minus 2, equals, on the last term, the 3's reduce, and I just get left with x times x minus 2. So now I've got rid of all my denominators. I need to simplify. So I'm going to have 3x, distribute the negative 3 in. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Equals, distribute the x into this parentheses, x times x is x squared, x times negative 2 is negative 2x. On the left-hand side, 3x minus 3x is 0, so I just get 6 equals x squared minus 2x. Well, what type of equation is this? It's degree 2, it's quadratic. So I need everything on one side, 0 on the other. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So on the left-hand side, I get 0 equals, on the right-hand side, all unlike terms. So I get x squared minus 2x minus 6. Unfortunately, this quadratic equation doesn't factor. So I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula over here. And so comparing my equation to ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, a is the coefficient of the x squared term. What number are we too efficient to write in front of x squared? It's a 1. b is the coefficient of the x, it's negative 2. c is the constant term of negative 6. So x equals, just plugging numbers into my quadratic formula, negative b, so it's the opposite of negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, negative 2 all squared, minus 4 times a times c. A is 1 times c is negative 6, all divided by 2 times a, and what was a? A was 1. So x equals, the opposite of negative 2 is 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 all squared is 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 6 is positive 24, all divided by 2, which equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 24 is 28, all divided by 2. So I have 2 plus or minus the square root of, let's factor 28. The simplest way is 4 times 7, 4 being a perfect square, all divided by 2. Sorry, I'm running out of room, so I'm going to have to go up here. So x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 7 cannot be simplified. And I'm going to divide each of those individually by 2. Makes reducing simpler. So x equals 2 divided by 2 is 1. Plus or minus, these 2's reduce here and just leave you with the square root of 7. But before I'm done, we need to look at what values we had to exclude from the domain. Only 0 and 2. So are these allowed? Yes, these values are in the domain. So this equation has 2 solutions, and if you're asked to write them separately, it's x equals 1 plus the square root of 7, and x equals 1 minus the square root of 7.